Hey there, everyone. So, as promised, we're going to talk about our Argumentative website, which is our third and final project for this semester. So, hope you're ready for it. It's going to be amazing. And this is going to give you the opportunity to share something that you're passionate about with me, with the class. We're going to be able to work through it and figure out a way to make a change. All right. So, that's pretty awesome. So, if you can see, we are in our announcements page where you go as soon as you log in. If you were to go into lessons and then scroll down to week 7, because that's where we are, you'll see that we've got a few assignments and there's a new folder for argumentative website materials. Let's click on it. All right. We've got assignment requirements and 2 templates. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, where's the sample? Where's all like, why don't I have a sample to work with? And the reason is because guess what? Any website on the internet that is effective is going to be an effective sample for you. All right. So now, of course, we are working within the confines of PowerPoint, as I'm sure you recognized as you were doing your essays on visual and textual rhetoric, your comparisons, your illustrations, right? All of those things that we accomplished. Now, so we do have the limitation of PowerPoint at this time. We haven't gotten approved to do another type of file, but that's okay. So we have some limitations in the sense that you are, kind of limited to the PowerPoint tools, but at the same time, that's okay, right? We can still effectively share information. We can create visual rhetoric, we can create textual rhetoric, and we can hone it to effectively solve a problem. All right, so without further ado, let's take a look at the assignment requirements document. Now, if you are one of those folks who are like, wait a minute, I'm not sure how to access PowerPoint, here's what I'm going to tell you. I have instructions here about how to download the application. Now, of course, if you're working on a Chromebook, this is going to be a little bit of an issue because my understanding, at least, is that you're not able to download applications. It's essentially just working online with online resources. Now, of course, Gwinnett Tech, I don't believe still, I believe Gwinnett Tech still does not recommend the use of a Chromebook. So if you've been having issues with Blackboard and you're using a Chromebook, well, that's probably it. But in terms of creating this website, I would strongly recommend downloading the application rather than working with PowerPoint online. Okay, so the steps to do that are over here. Okay, let's go down to the meat and potatoes of these requirements. So what you're going to do is you are going to choose an argumentative topic. This is your problem, right? This problem that you feel passionate about, that you want to help resolve. And you are going to create an organization and a web page for that organization that's geared to solving this problem for the people that are struggling with it. All right, so note that this website that you create cannot be a scam. Okay, it can't be. Because we want to make sure we're using our tools ethically. The purpose of including scam elements in the previous websites was just to keep you thinking, keep you on your toes, and to recognize that sometimes things that are bad can be presented in ways that seem like they're okay. And it's up to you to notice the red flags. So that's why the previous ones did that. All right, but yours will not be a scam. Now, if you are the type of person who sits there and goes, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, I don't know what kind of topic to create, all right, we can do some things like this. These are examples. You do not have to follow them. You can kind of do your own thing. In another class, I have someone who's working with human sex trafficking. I have someone who wants to legalize monkeys as pets in the state of Georgia, right? So this is something that is kind of open. All right, so some examples of topics that you might choose. Legalization of marijuana for, medical purposes, cancer-related symptoms, okay? Sentencing reform for juveniles tried as adults. Free speech protections, so First Amendment, extended to use of hate speech on social media. The ethical treatment of animals for the purposes of animal testing on cosmetic products, and the implementation of COVID-19 vaccine mandates for federal employees. So these are just a few general topics, and of course, they're very broad. You would still have to take a side. Do you think marijuana should be legalized for medicinal use to help with cancer-related symptoms? Cool. If you do, then that's your problem that you're looking to solve. We've got these people with cancer who can't get effective treatment um, because there's legal barriers to it regarding marijuana, right? So you have to choose one side or the other, and your organization is advocating for that choice you make. Okay. Now, note that there are a few things that you cannot engage with. Things like climate change, things like finding lost pets or missing people, and expeditions to hunt for missing civilizations. Now, you'll notice that those kind of mirror our sample websites or the websites that were created for our class. And yep, that's exactly it, right? I know it's very difficult to create something without unintentionally emulating something else. And since they follow the same structure, I don't want to, have any opportunity for any sort of like accidental usage. All right, so don't engage with those topics, but beyond that, the world is your oyster. All right, so now we will have the following pages on our websites. Okay, home, our mission, about us, join our cause, and works cited. Now you might be sitting here going, well, I've never seen a website with a works cited page. You're right. But the thing is, we want to make sure that we are effectively citing our information, that your reader knows where you got your information from. For us, think about your works cited page as an additional ethos beyond your use of information within the website. Okay. Now, there are some things that your overall website must do, and this must be present on each of your web pages. Okay. So you must make use of your organization's logo on each page in varying sizes as you see fit, because it only makes sense to keep your organization's logo in the face of folks who are reading your website, right? Include a unified color scheme that engages visually with your topic. Now, that doesn't mean I think these colors look cool, right? It's not about looking cool. It's about creating, making a rhetorical choice and using colors to your advantage. Remember at the beginning of term, we were talking about what color accomplishes, what different colors mean, right? Use those tools and now put that into practice yourself. Include a font choice that befits your topic. If you're trying to say that, monkeys should be allowed to be pets, are you going to want a super formal font? Probably not. Monkeys are fun, fast and loose, right? Keep it a little chill. Obviously, it needs to be legible, readable, but you really want to make sure that your font choice is matching the content you're sharing. Okay. Um, your website must look cohesive and utilize white space constructively. Now, that of course means you'll want to separate out content, right? We talked a little bit about how big blocks of text are very difficult to read in a digital medium. You're just sitting there kind of like scrolling on your phone, just like, oh goodness, more. There's more. There's more. Break it up. Okay. Only keep things direct, clear, concise, and then move on to your next point. Okay. So that's really, really important. One thing that I want to point out here, it doesn't explicitly say it, but I had some questions from other students in other classes. Please don't change the size of the web pages in the templates. Okay, you have templates to use, they give you enough space to have some wiggle room. As long as you are effectively using your white space, I'm not going to give you off points if your web page looks absurdly long. But just keep in mind too, if it looks absurdly long, could you maybe need more content there? Maybe on a page like the Our Mission page, maybe not. But on something like Home or About Us, so like maybe, right? And keep in mind, play with font sizes, make sure they make sense. Should like headers or headings, sorry, should they be bigger than the body text that you're sharing? Okay, these are all things to keep in mind. Um, Use at least one image on each page, and your image must be clearly cited. Now, there are some rules for image use, which are basically you have to only use open access images, and there's a note for that further down. Okay, the reason for that is anything that's not considered open access means that it's copyrighted in some way and that you will likely I don't know, face some sort of legal trouble or something like that if word got out that you used it. Something like a fine or, um, some detrimental action. Okay, so only use open access. I have a link to, well, not a link, I have a description because for some reason the link wasn't working in this document. But I have information about where you can find images that are open access. All right, look further down. So let's kind of go through each of the web pages here. So your homepage must include the following: general information about the topic your organization is working to impact, right? Your problem. What's the problem, right? At least two quotations and one paraphrase from a peer-reviewed source that shows the necessity of your position. Okay, so this could be one source, this can be two, but either way, they need to be peer-reviewed because you need that ethos from, an expert in the field. So you should have gone over peer-reviewed sources in the library workshop, but if you haven't, there's a little bit of a refresher in the MLA handbook. I believe it's section 8, but don't quote me on that. Just look at that table of contents and you'll get an idea of what is peer reviewed versus what is popular. It all has to do with the audience and the author. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Also, make note that each quotation and paraphrase has to use an in-text citation. We are citing these using MLA formatting requirements, so you need in-text citations and works cited citations. Just as a general reminder, if you use something word for word from a source, it needs to be placed in quotation marks. And if you are using a paraphrase, that is essentially a summary of a block of text in a source, you don't need to place that in quotation marks, but you do need to add an in-text citation, right? So you need to have citations for both quotations and paraphrases, but only quotations need to be in quotation marks. Okay, now moving down to our mission page. You must include a mission statement that identifies the necessity of your created organization. Why is this organization the solution to the problem, right? How the organization will advance your chosen position, right? And both of those points essentially work to answer, well, how does this organization work to help? All right, so you'll want to keep that in mind as you are working through that. And we are going to look at some examples of mission statements in just a minute. Okay, your About Us page must include an engaging origin story. What made you realize that this problem was something that needed to be solved? Okay, and don't say because it was an example on the assignment requirements document, like really dig into it. Why, when you looked at it, did you say, oh man, like we really could do with talking about this more? Okay. Um, at least one quotation from a peer-reviewed source that's relevant to your origin story, right? It needs to make sense there. This can be either the same source or a separate source, but just remember that you need to use the quotation marks and add an in-text citation. All right. And you should also include an image that engages with your topic and augments your origin story. If you're wondering what augments means, it just means kind of like builds upon, right? So the visual rhetoric in the image helps to advance the origin story, right? The textual rhetoric in your origin story. Now, you must also include a Join Our Cause page that includes a call to action. You might say, well, what's a call to action? It's exactly what it sounds like it is. All right, so it is helping to solve the problem that you identify by doing a simple action. Now, you want to make sure you're not asking someone engaging with your website to do like 17 backflips, some sort of triple twist and like a ta-da at the end, right? It needs to be something that's simple that people can do in their everyday lives because guess what? People won't do it if it's not simple. All right, so it needs to be something simple, something basic, but something impactful. And then an image that works to augment your call to action. Okay, now to earn higher than a 59%. Now, of course, if you notice, there's no works cited page up on this list here, but that is going to follow all the typical MLA formatting stuff, right? You're going to have your works cited title, you're going to have your hanging indent, you're going to cite all of your sources properly, and all of that information can be found in the MLA handbook and also in Galileo. Okay, so, hopefully when you went to the library workshop, they showed you how to pull the works cited citations from Galileo itself. If not, send me an email and we can kind of talk through it. But the librarians should have gone over that with you. All right, so to earn higher than a 59%, you must include persuasive content on each of the 5 required pages. Okay, make sure that your content is persuasive. Tell the reader why we should care. Just the word should in itself is persuasive. Engage with visual rhetoric on each page that's clearly linked to your organization's purpose, including headings and paragraphs of explanations for each, cohesive color and font choice, and of course, visual rhetoric extends to the images you've chosen. All right, engage with textual rhetoric on each page that's clearly linked to your organization's purpose, including persuasive language to include your reader to participate, right? Like I said before with should, right? Should is persuasive. Avoid the use of logical fallacies when persuading. Logical fallacies, let me just kind of put this out there. What are they? Well, logical fallacies are trash, okay? And I don't mean that in in a way that I'm criticizing people who use them. As a rhetorical tool, I'm telling you they're trash. Okay, they don't hold up, right? They are the thing that people in debate clubs say, well, this is a fallacy and here's why. And then all of a sudden your argument is gone if you are relying too heavily on logical fallacy. So don't use it at all. Now you might say, well, wait, what in the world is a logical fallacy? Well, a logical fallacy is something that you see often that generally has less to do with the argument that, someone in the opposition is making than it does with either minimizing the argument or attacking the person, right? And the thing is, if you're not having an intelligent exchange of ideas and instead you go into full-on attack mode, that does not make you look good. And that does not make your ideas look well thought out and clear, because it looks like you run into a wall and all you can do is attack now, right? So we don't want to do that. So some examples, straw man argument, right? Minimizing someone else's argument to the point that any person at all would say it's not a good argument. Every argument has valid points and you need to give it credit. All right, so if you're referencing, you're working on marijuana, legalizing marijuana for medicinal use in regards to cancer, okay, you don't want to say something that completely demeans the fact that some people don't think marijuana should be legalized. But in the same vein, right, you might want to expose a logical fallacy that an opposition uses. For example, the slippery slope fallacy that people often use in regards to marijuana, right? A lot of times people will say, well, you know what? You smoke a joint one time and then next thing you know, they're doing crack on the corner, right? That is not, there's so many things wrong with that. It's not even funny. So many choices have to happen between taking that first hit and ending up in a worse situation regarding drugs, right? Not to mention, there's a lot to unpack there because it's such trash, right? And that's what I'm talking about, right? You don't want to minimize something and reduce it to just basic, okay? You want to make sure that you are engaging thoughtfully with ideas, right? So expose someone else's fallacy, but don't create your own. Things like the ad hominem argument, which we see in politics constantly. Oh, I don't have any thoughts on this particular idea we're debating about. Well, let me tell you how this other guy is bad, right? How is it related? Most often it's not. Okay. And that's just the truth. So, we have some other things like hasty generalizations and correlation causation fallacy. I'm also going to add it's a little poster that's called "Thou shall not commit logical fallacy" in the argumentative website argumentative website materials folder, so you have access to it. All right, but that's the big thing. Okay, you really want to make sure that you're avoiding logical fallacy. You're exposing logical fallacy in an opposition argument to help build your own, if that's something you want to do. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. Only use images that are part of the public domain. This is where open access comes in. A good resource for this is Wikimedia Commons. Now, when you're searching, I'm just going to kind of, instead of showing you, just give you a brief description of it. when you're searching at Wikimedia Commons, you click on an image and it kind of pulls it up like Google, where it's got a list and then the image on the one side. Click on the image again if you want to use it, and you'll see that it'll show any restrictions, which are typically things like, for educational purposes, just use it however you want, or something like, you can use this but don't manipulate it without permission, right? And just follow those restrictions. All right, that's also where you're going to find the information about citing the images. And remember, you need to have an in-text citation for images as well as a works cited citation. So don't forget, open access, citation needed. Unless you've created the images yourself, in which case, let's give you credit. We're going to have you cite yourself. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. All right, now include in-text citations for all quotations, paraphrases, and an MLA works cited page that goes on that works cited page at the end of your website. And submit a document in PowerPoint format. Now, we will have steps of this. If you've looked at the assignment calendar, you already know that. So kudos to you. If you haven't looked at the assignment calendar, don't worry, we're breaking it down. Also look at the assignment calendar. But we've got, first up, kind of the overall website construction with the logo and the mission statement. And this way I can kind of get a really good idea of what your organization is and what it's attempting to accomplish. Okay. Now, I told you before we will talk about mission statements, and give me just 1 second. We'll scoot over to that. But essentially, each of these different pages beyond the first, which is essentially just our mission and the logo, the first assignment for this, it'll add on a home page. It'll add on an About Us page, right? Every couple of days, you're adding a new page. And in an ideal world, which I hope that you're living in right now, because this will be beneficial to you, revise the material that you see, between assignments. So I'll give you some comments on your logo and your color scheme and things like that after the Our Mission and logo assignment. Use those to revise all of that stuff as you're creating your home page, right? And then once I give you comments on your home page and I kind of make additional comments on the changes you made, then use those as you're adding your About Us page, right? So the reason I'm tiering this for us is because I want you to have every opportunity to be as successful and hone and revise and create the strongest argumentative website that you will ever be able to create. All right, because you're going to do it. You're going to nail it. I know it. All right, so now your website should actively encourage the reader to get involved with your topic, right? That problem. Contain a header that shows menu buttons to access pages. They're already present in the templates. Follow college level writing conventions. Now, here's a quick note. For this assignment, you will not use I unless you're showing a quotation from you as the founder of this organization, right? Because think about it. If you have an organization, you're trying to be big. You have members. You will always be we instead of the singular I. We as a whole suggests that we are an army, a force to be reckoned with. I am just one lowly person who maybe can or maybe can't make an impact, right? Think we, not I, unless you're quoting yourself as a founder, okay? Avoid contractions, right? So won't, don't, can't, right? Unless you're using them with a clear rhetorical intent, right? If you're trying to say that monkeys should be able to be as pets, maybe contractions are a good choice there, right? Depends on your angle, okay? Now, here's some fun stuff. No one's asked for extra credit in this term yet, but if you include functioning buttons in your PowerPoint, you will earn 10 points of extra credit. Now, I will say, these buttons are not difficult to add, and I have a video tutorial that shows you how to do it. So honestly, anyone that doesn't do it, what are you doing, right? It's really simple. It doesn't require you to add any additional pages. It just takes some time, okay? And I did it quite a bit. So in the video, it only takes like 5 minutes. It might take you 20, right? Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But there's a video, and that's going to go in Argumentative website materials as well. Okay. Now, I won't go over this so deeply because this text is tiny. The benefit of having a digital version is you could just blow it up. Always aim for exceeds expectations. And when you blow it up, what you'll see is that there will be sections for textual and visual rhetoric for each page. And then there's a section for your works cited page, and then in-text citation formatting. All right, so you really want to be sure that you are, working visually and textually, and then also accurately citing and portraying information from source materials. Okay, this is me critiquing your ability to turn analysis from previous into content for yourself. All right, so I'm going to see you do this. Okay, so one last little note that I want to make before we look at mission statements is that our websites that I created for you guys, right? Global Warming Consortium, We Found Fido, Atlantis Crusaders. You might look at that and say, wow, that probably took like an hour? No. Okay. Some days were harder than others. I get into those like creative funks just like you guys do. Like some days I banged out a bunch of content, and then other days I agonized over two sentences. Okay. And it's really important that you realize that even someone who is trained in this, it probably took me about 10 hours to create those websites, not all together, 10 hours each. All right. So I want you to have realistic expectations for how much time it will take you. Okay. So now let's take a look at our some example mission statements since that's our first assignment here. All right, thank you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your. No, I'm not going to do that. So let's take a look at these mission statements. So the first one, you'll notice that, or you might notice that I used some of the websites you used for the comparison contrast essay to kind of dig into their mission statements. So we've got Lost My Doggy, first up. Okay. Now you might say, well, where in the world do I find a mission statement? I've never seen it on a website. Well, chances are that's because you don't go and check this stuff out at the bottom of the page. Usually the mission is going to live in About Us. All right. And we could see, oh my goodness, we have a mission right here. Okay. Our mission to continually create and improve upon our system to increase the chances of a lost pet being reunited with their owner, and to offer the most effective selection of free lost pet tools that provide actual results to lost pet owners. Now, you, in your website, do not need to contain a two-part mission. If you want to, amazing. If you don't, that's okay. But essentially, this mission statement is twofold, right? It has the first part, which is about internal development. We want to get better. And then the second part is we want to use the ways that we get better to help you. Pretty effective, right? We want to constantly be growing, evolving, getting stronger, and being able to then help you in a better, stronger, more effective way. That's a pretty darn good mission statement, isn't it? So let's take a look at another one. Dogs Finding Dogs. This one is looking a little bit more like the web page that we had on PowerPoint. So let's scroll down because its mission statement is directly on the web page here. Okay. Nice and simple. Our mission to safely and quickly reunite owners with their missing pets. Direct, concise, all of those things. Could it be a little more robust? Yes. Yes, it could. Okay. What does it mean to safely reunite a pet? Does it mean that like the pet owner doesn't get hurt? Does it mean that the pet itself doesn't get hurt, that it doesn't come back after being hit by a car, right? But is it also possible to actually fulfill that mission 100% of the time? No, they kind of set themselves up for failure here, just a little bit. All right. Also, quickly, right? Sure, everybody wants their dog back fast, but is it feasible? I live in a pretty rural area with like tons of forest around me. If one of my dogs got out, I don't know that I'd ever find them. And I don't know that I could trust my neighbors to allow me on their land to search through their woods. I don't know if they would allow, dogs finding dogs to do that, right? Of course, this mission statement doesn't extend to 100% of the time, but it leaves quite a few holes here. All right. So, and that is a detriment that actually comes from the fact that it's so short and to the point. Okay. It just leaves some holes. So you want to be a little more developed than this. Um, and then we can take a look at another couple. One you'll see gets far too developed almost. So let's take a look at Eco Action first. They've got a really cool video on their homepage, but man, this thing takes forever to load. All right, so we have to go to the Who We Are page and then go to, oh, we just have to click that. All right, haha, nailed it. I did check this before I came. I just completely forgot that they didn't have a click through for it. Okay, so we can see here that we have an our vision and our mission. Now these are different. If you would like to have a vision, that's amazing, right? And essentially the difference between these two is a mission is what is my organization going to accomplish right now? And how is it going to do that now? And our vision is what do we want the world to look like after our goal is accomplished? Okay, interesting choice to put the vision before the mission, right? Some might say it's like putting the cart before the horse, but rhetorically, this is what the world could look like. And here's how we're trying to get it there, right? It does make sense. It's a clear rhetorical choice. So our vision is a Georgia where communities enjoy clean and safe air, water, land, and energy and have the power to impact decisions affecting their lives. This vision embodies the following: preserve, restore, and protect the environment, heed early warning signs, and act. Seek solutions that are environmentally friendly, resilient, sustainable, and equitable to protect human health and the environment. Okay. Now, they also have a target. EcoAction serves the general population of Georgia, but our work focuses on serving vulnerable and low-income communities and communities of color. Okay, so they are specifically working to help these vulnerable and low-income communities and communities of color, and to help these communities enjoy clean and safe air, water, land, and energy. Okay, that's what they're looking to do. Now, let's look at their mission, which is to help communities organize and confront environmental health threats and to strengthen and facilitate participation of communities in presenting and resolving such threats. EcoAction serves the general population, but we focus on our assistance on vulnerable communities, most often rural residents, people with limited formal education, those with few resources, women, and people of color. EcoAction's work is based on the intersection of three things: threats to human health, environmental degradation, and social injustice. Totally a noble cause. I love it. But is it trying to do too much? I'm going to kind of leave that up to you to think about. Um, my personal feeling is that it is attempting to do just a little bit too much, right? Obviously a noble cause, but their focus is so split, and you can see that in the way they wrote their mission, right? We have a lot of different content that's kind of jumbled together in a way that's less clear and direct than it could or should be. Of course, I'm not devaluing the work that this organization has done, just in the way they're presenting themselves as doing it. All of this information could be more clearly presented in a way that makes sense in a stronger way, especially when you consider that one of the vulnerable communities that they're focusing on are people with limited formal education. Now, if you're a person with limited formal education, and someone said, well, you are in a group because we want to work with you more specifically because you have limited formal education. Even that phrasing, limited formal education, is not geared toward this group, right? And so we need to be conscious too. Who is our audience, right? They identify in the target section that their audience are these vulnerable groups, the low-income communities and communities of color. Right, they do. But then they clearly tailor their vision and their mission toward people who are more educated, right? And I mean, of course, they can be from any of those groups, but you need to be aware that the way that you share information is really dependent on your audience. And if you single out particular groups, you really want to make sure that delivery of information makes sense. In this case, I'm specifically pointing out, people who lack formal education. So that to me, in my mind, suggests people who didn't finish high school. Are they going to be able to understand the content in this mission statement? Maybe. Sometimes experiential learning is better than formal education. I strongly believe that. I know people who didn't go to college that are far smarter than I am. But other times, maybe someone would struggle with this. They need to be aware. So you need to think about all of these things as you're working through your mission. Now, let's take a look at this last one. It's nrdc.org. Let's scroll down to the bottom. There we go. About NRDC. It's going to be living in here. Now, their mission is not super clearly stated. Okay. NRDC works to safeguard the earth, right? This is kind of like more of a thing that we're doing rather than our mission. You'll want to make yours more direct. Our mission is. But the NRDC works to safeguard the earth, its people, its plants and animals, and natural systems on which all life depends. Okay, then we have a little bit of a sub content here. We combine the power of more than 3 million members and online activists with the expertise of some 700 scientists, lawyers, and other environmental specialists to protect the planet's wildlife and wild places, and to ensure the rights of all people to clean air, clean water, and healthy communities. They're doing a lot too. Okay, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be doing a lot, but there's a lot happening. Okay, not to mention the bold part of their mission, right? Works to safeguard the earth. What does it mean to safeguard the earth? What it means to me might be very different to you, right? Okay, it's people, that kind of makes sense, right? Don't hurt others, keep them protected, sure. Plants and animals, I mean, could safeguard in someone's mind mean that someone goes out and starts digging up plants and locks them all up in a greenhouse and protects them in that way? Maybe. What does that do to the environment? Same thing for animals, right? Do we safeguard them by putting them in zoos? I think there's plenty of information out there that suggests that's not a good safeguard. Maybe for an individual, but not for a species. All right. So, you really want to think about how clear is my mission? That's really, really important. You might say, well, hey, but they've got 3 million members and online activists and 700 scientists, lawyers, and other environmental, or some 700 lawyers, scientists, and other environmental specialists. It's too general. Some 700 scientists. When we're getting to that big a number, that could mean 602. I mean, that's close to 700. It's closer to 700 than it is to 500, right? So you got to pick apart the phrasing and think about what you're saying. Now, rhetorically, I mean, it's an interesting choice, right? They've got you thinking they've got so many people behind them, which may or may not be true, right? But we, as astute readers, need to be thinking, okay, well, what is this really saying? Okay, now you might also tell me, well, okay, but there's a video here, which probably helps explain the mission. Sure, it might. But why do you need a video when you could revise your actual mission? Right? That kind of suggests that you didn't have the skill, the ability, or the interest in revising the words that you put on the page and instead wanted to put it in a video. Now, I would have no complaint if they said, well, I don't want to put words on my page. I want to put a video on my page. Cool, right? That is not splitting their eggs between two baskets. They are going for it. I would say it may not be as effective because it's assuming that people will watch your video, but it is more effective than needing both together to help share the information. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there with varying levels of critique. So to kind of boil it down, Lost My Doggy seems to have the most effective mission statement, right? They've got their stuff together here. So I would say kind of use their phrasing, and then use something like Dogs Finding Dogs, Eco Action, and NRDC as more of a cautionary tale. They have some great elements, but there are some things that they do that make their mission statement less convincing. Okay, so just wanted to kind of put that out there as we were talking about the Argumentative website assignment. If you have any questions, of course, please contact me. Let me know. Ask your questions. We can also talk in class, of course. And if you need anything, as always, just get in touch with me. Send me an email, schedule a meeting, whatever you need. All right. Thanks, you guys. Have a good one. See you next time.